Right. Yeah, we are
Yeah.
ready, Baba.
I think we're ready. Well,
Yes.
yes, our viewers, witnesses, it's a very good evening to you. If you're coming in, press the share button. Tonight we have the topic, the big bother here. It's a bother to one grouping. It's an excitement or a celebration in the other. We about to start right now. Do press the share button. The title is the Patriotic Bill lawful? And we have here some leading experts from the two main, if you are part of the two horse theory, the two main political parties here, or groupings, it seems here, as I can say, ZANU PF and the opposition. Okay, we're about to start right now. Do press the share button of yours, witnesses, and we're also graced, I wanted to say, with ITAI DZAMARA'S solicitor, ITAI DZAMARA'S lawyer. This is Advocate Masie, the lawyer of the missing journalist, activist, the missing celebrity. We are about to start straight away. Do press the share button in about 30 seconds. Thank you.
Welcome to Footron Africa, your getaway to cheap, quick, and safe rides with vetted and experienced drivers. Planning on going somewhere? Just download the Footron app for Android from the Google Play Store or the iOS from the Apple App Store. Register and request your rides. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram by choosing your country page, whether it's Footron Africa Botswana, Footron Africa South Africa, Footron Africa Namibia, Footron Africa Zambia, or Footron Africa Zimbabwe to receive service updates and promotions. Do you own a car? Do you want to make extra money? Do you want to be your own boss? Do you want to work when you want to? Why don't you join the Footron Driver program? We are recruiting drivers across major cities. Download the Footron Driver app for Android from the Google Play Store or for iOS from the Apple App Store and register. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram by choosing your country page, Footron Africa Botswana, Footron Africa South Africa, Footron Africa Namibia, Footron Africa Zambia, or Footron Africa Zimbabwe to view the driver requirements for registration. Registration is free of charge. Download the app and request your ride or join the Footron Driver program and start earning money. Footron Africa, request, ride, and
Here we are.
connect.
Here we are, viewers, witnesses. It's a very good evening to you. We have, as of the last few days, in our country, a new piece of legislation that has gone through the Senate, Parliament, and the Senate. And it is the highly hyped patriotic bill. It's a bill that criminalizes communications with people who are deemed foreign um, entities, such as state parties or state actors, excuse me, out there. Now, it's a bill that has been crafted as interpreted by another wing here of our community to suppress political, freedom of expression. But quickly, today we've got our learned guest joining us live. I've got here on my left Dr. Masimba MAVAZA. Now, he is a legal expert. He is a jurist, both inside the Zimbabwean judicial system and the United Kingdom. And he joins us live. Dr. Masimba MAVAZA, good evening to you, sir.
Good evening, Simba. Good evening, Advocate Masie. Good evening, Zimbabwe.
We have Advocate Masie. Advocate Masie is ITAI DZAMARA, the missing journalist and the missing activist lawyer. And he has been serving in this capacity for, I think, more than a decade now, if I'm not mistaken. And Advocate Masie, thank you for coming in finally tonight.
Thank you, Simba. Thank you for inviting me, and welcome to Dr. MAVAZA as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, thank you. Dr. MAVAZA, let's hear from you, sir. Is the patriotic bill even lawful? Makaunza chinhu chistomborina kana Simba remutemo kaimi kana kuti bumbiro remutemo chairo makangotora chinhu mukabva mati nhasi toda kuzovapanisha vanhu
Right.
veopposition nemajournalist. Please give us your 3 minutes, sir.
The first thing to understand, Simba, is that the Patriotic Bill was muted and put into Parliament first as a bill in 2020. It's not something which started this week. The argument over the Patriotic Bill has been going on. There have been debates, there have been consultations throughout the country, and it came out like everybody loved it. So it only passed through Parliament this month and through Senate this week. So it's not something which was rushed because of elections. It has been there just before elections. It has been there. It has been discussed. It has gone through the full discussion of Senate and Parliament and the people of Zimbabwe at large. And again, it is not, I would want to say, to correct you, Simba, you said it is there to stifle freedom of expression. No, that's not it. It simply prohibits insulting and telling lies about your country. It prohibits falsehood about your country. It prohibits vilifying and demonizing your country. So if you look at it that way, it is not in any way stopping people from talking. It will stop you from making false statements about your country to foreign nationals, to foreign entities, and to foreign governments. So in other words, if you have got something to say about your country, say it in your country. And the parliament had realized that it is important that people should actually understand that patriotism needs a lot of push, a lot of education, that you become patriotic. Because people do not know what is being patriotic. So when the when the act is signed by the president, it then becomes punishable by law if you say falsehoods in an unpatriotic way with the aim of destroying, vilifying, demonizing your country. This law is not knee-shaking, is what people are saying. It is actually a blessing which has come to Zimbabwe, whereby we protect our dignity as a country, where we protect our image as a nation. And therefore, I don't understand why people are panicking. But however, as you would know, the guilty are always afraid.
Wow, thank you very much. Dr. Mavaza is saying here, as we can see, the guilty are always afraid. Anzi, there's nothing here to be alarmed about. Let's hear now from our advocate, Kennedy Masia. He's a lawyer that I've known for a very, very long time, and people would know him. And many remember ITAI DZAMARA, the missing journalist, the activist. He is a man who stood by ITAI DZAMARA throughout that entire period. And he was physically subjected to bullying and harassment. And if I'm not mistaken, he was even assaulted, if I remember well back then. Advocate Masia, you are guilty. You are afraid. You will be afraid because you are guilty. You should not resist the Patriotic Bill because people celebrate it. People loved it. These are the words of Dr. MAVAZA in part. Give us your rendition, your 3 minutes.
No, thank you very much, Simba. Listening to Dr. Mavaza, say his submission.
I'll ask you to increase your volume a little bit, sir, if you can.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Thank you. A little bit better now. You just try to increase it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
So yes, hearing Dr. Mavaza talk and give his submissions, actually, got me thinking that probably he does not really understand, what we're saying as violation of freedom of expression, and in his statements, he clearly admits that this bill is there to police, what people say, to find guilty people who talk falsehoods about their country and so forth. This is in itself, a violation of the freedom of expression. No one should be stopped, from talking whatever he thinks about this country. No one should be stopped from engaging on solutions that he thinks can benefit his country, by either even talking to colleagues or even talking to other, like-minded organizations that can help out in shaping what we term democracy. This bill in itself, it's not surprising that it's coming now, is what Dr. Mavaza has also alluded to, that this bill has been in the talks since 2021, I think 2021, when it was being talked about in the media, and we only came to see a text of the bill last year when it was gazetted, and now that it is sailed through Senate. And it's not surprising that it's coming at a time when we are about to have elections. That it is coming at a time when the election date has been announced. It actually shows like how strategic, the crafters of this bill, are going about this issue of trying to thwart the freedom of expression, and also trying to hang an axe over anyone who would talk about the human rights violations that are happening in Zimbabwe. At the moment, we know that there are so many issues that are happening in Zimbabwe, be it economic violations that are happening in Zimbabwe, be it political and civil violations that are happening in Zimbabwe, be it abductions that are happening in Zimbabwe, be it the murders that are happening in Zimbabwe, and be it the incarceration of politicians such as Job Scala, who are incarcerated for talking about violations in Zimbabwe. This is an act that is coming to make sure that all those things are not talked about by people who are outside Zimbabwe and who are concerned citizens who are outside Zimbabwe, to make sure that the Zimbabwe government actually, abides by international standards that it is subscribed to. There are so many things that I will talk about as we go that are in the bill that are so much in violation or of the Constitution, especially things such as the penalties themselves that are imposed by this bill, which are in contravention of sections of the Constitution, and also certain certain new prescribed crimes that are somehow not well crafted, that would think that would affect people's rights when they go to court. I think these things, we'll talk about them as we go, but in brief, I would say this is a piece of legislation that has no space in any country that sees itself as a democracy, or in any country that wants to nurture free speech, and also nurture a society where people criticize the government in order to see that it does good. So to me, this is a piece of legislation that is strictly in violation of freedom of expression. Thank you.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much. Right. So tell me something. When we say violation of freedom of expression, there, is that not then clearly stating that the Patriotic Bill is unlawful itself? It's unlawful. Are you seeing Pamtemwe?
No, I will answer that, Simba, and I know Advocate Masia will edit later. You see, we have got laws.
What you did, Dr. Mavaza, what your legislators, the legislators in your party did there, was to take something that was totally unlawful, completely unlawful, and just chuck it there and then code it law. You want people to
Simba,
work in a certain fashion.
No, Simba, I want you to understand one thing. Forget about the Patriotic Act yet. Look at this, at the laws against defamation of character, the laws against defamation, the laws about criminal injuria, where you injure somebody by what you have said and written. All those things protect you from falsehood. Now, Zimbabwe is now, the laws are talking about, the laws of defamation, they protect falsehood against an individual or a person, but not against a country. Now, the Patriotic Bill now protects against falsehood against the country. And again, Advocate Masia would agree with me that it's not Zimbabwe only which has such a law. I have told you the Logan Law, the Logan Act, which is an American venture of version of a patriotic bill. We have the same laws in England, German. To start with, Simba, you can never hear Donald Trump criticizing America outside America. He will criticize the government and everybody within America. You will never hear Rishi Sunak or Boris Johnson or even Tony Blair or any other person or Gordon Brown or any other leader, Lord Major, who was the prime minister before. You will never hear those people going out there criticizing the United Kingdom outside the boundaries of the kingdom. They are patriots. When it comes to a problem, I'll give you a good opposition spirit. If you know a man, I don't know if you know him. This man is from Republic of South Africa. His name is Malema. When the Americans started attacking South Africa for selling, falsely accusing South Africa for selling ammunition to Russia, the opposition through Malema stood up and stood for their country, stood for their president, stood for their government, and attacked America in a way that it shows patriotism. This is what we lack with in Zimbabwe. So the coming of the Patriotic Act is actually a blessing in disguise. Again, I want to dispel and disprove the fact or the lies or the falsehoods which Advocate Masia is trying to propagate here, that it was a well-calculated move to have this bill come up towards elections. No, this bill has been debated 3 years ago. It has been going on and on until it has come to voting. It was given enough time. And the voting was not even put in a hush or speedy manner. It was actually a slow, painfully slow, that we patriots, we felt very pained when this bill was delayed. I would have loved that bill to have been applied on a Mahere when she took a 5 minutes of shame in Switzerland. I would have loved it to be applied on those who are looking for sanctions. What it prohibits, Simba, I want us to understand this. It does not criminalize criticism of the government. Neither does it criminalize criticism of the party, any party. It criminalizes falsehoods against your country. Not only falsehoods, falsehoods to another foreign land, another foreign country, or a foreign organization. So that means going outside the country and lie about your country to any person you meet on the street is not punishable by anything. But when you go to a government entity and then falsify your statements and make falsehoods against your own country, the country suffers a lot. People who vilify, people who demonize our country, they cause us a deep depression, which is seriously flabbergasting if you look at it. So when we look at the whole issue, the law here, Advocate Masie, the law does not seek to punish people who criticize the government. We need criticism. This is what we call democracy. Don't forget one thing. It is the purpose for democracy is why Zimbabweans stood up and went and fought in the war of liberation. The war was fought for the sake of democracy, for the sake of one man, one vote, for the sake of freedom, for the sake of freedom of expression. So ZANU-PF cannot throw away what they fought for. People died, and the freedom of Zimbabwe is cemented by the blood of the fallen heroes, and therefore we cannot trivialize it by stopping people from being free in their own country. All what the law is asking is say what you can say in your country. Do not say it outside the country. Do not demonize your country. When you're out there, don't lie. Don't say things that Zimbabwe is good when it's not good. If it's bad, say it's bad. But do not lie about what we say, because that becomes a crime. And then when you come back home on that basis, you will be prosecuted. So I wanted to just, in summarizing my 3 minutes, Simba, Advocate Masia, you are in America there. The Logan Act, the fact that it has not been used in a long time means it's working. The law is not put in order to punish you. It is put up there in order to stop, to protect. It's a provision to make sure things won't happen. So once that law is there, and if you are law abiding, you will not be criticizing your country abroad. And by so doing, the law does not have to be used. And it's not going to be used to those who have criticized their country within the country. So when Chamisa goes to a rally tomorrow, as he's going tomorrow, and starts attacking the government and its policies, ZANU-PF and everybody, there is nothing wrong with that. He is perfectly right in that. And that's what we call democracy. And again, as a party, ZANU-PF, we learn more from the criticism we get from other parties. And therefore, there is no democracy when people are quiet. We don't stifle people. We don't close people's mouths. We actually encourage people to talk. That's why people would say anything. That's why, because of this democracy, which is actually in the blood of ZANU-PF, Zimbabwe is a free country today. So yes, the act is a welcome act, it's the welcome law, and we are so proud as Zimbabweans that we now have a law which protects us in the lines of America, United Kingdom, Germany, Russia, and even in Argentina. There are laws which protect the country. It's the first time we have a law protecting the country, and we must applaud that law. And looking at the whole case on the round, in conclusion, the Patriotic Bill does not stop people from criticizing the government. It stops you from saying falsehoods, from publishing them, the falsehoods, or from sharing falsehoods about Zimbabwe to other foreign nationals, foreign entities, or foreign governments. So what would you be afraid of if you won't be lying about Zimbabwe? Advocate Masie.
Right. Dr. Mavaza, thank you very much. Tell me something. I am interested, before Advocate Masie comes in here, in understanding what type of political expressions they are going to be here. Because the very, very, very exercise of what is called politics is and involves falsehoods.
No, Simba, you are wrong. I'll give an example, Simba. You are here in England
Firstly,
with me. You are here with me in England. If the opposition party member or even the ruling party peddle falsehoods in their campaigns, they are fined. They are disqualified. They are taken to task. Politics does not mean being false. Even though they call it a dirty game, it's not centered on falsehoods. People do not need falsehoods in politics. They need the truth. That's why ZANU-PF has been winning so much for the past 43 years, 45 years now, because we have been 43 years rather. We have been every year as ZANU-PF, we have been telling the truth. And the truth is what makes us strong. And the truth frees you. So politics is not falsehood. So what we are trying to stamp out of people and out of Zimbabwean politics is falsehood. We must not lie to people. We must always tell the truth. And the masters of the truth, the fathers of the truth, the fathers of faith in truth in politics is ZANU-PF. And therefore, when you vote for those who tell the truth. And that is ZANU-PF.
Right. Advocate Masie.
Yeah, thank you very much, Simba. I'm very surprised by Mr. Mavaza's, Dr. Mavaza's submissions there. That ZANU-PF is trying to make people tell the truth when we know that for decades we've been living a lie. Right now, we have got one truth that is still, being buried under, under the carpet. The truth of Gukrawundi. People died in Matabeleland in the 80s, and that truth is what this bill is trying to shun, trying to force people not to talk about when they talk about it with other colleagues in different platforms. And when we are talking about the truth, what truth are we talking about here? What truth in whose eyes? Is it truth in the eyes of ZANU-PF or the truth in the eyes of the law? What truth are we talking about? Because right now we've got a serious human rights crisis in Zimbabwe. If you talk about that, whose truth are you talking about? Are you talking about the truth of the citizens, or are you talking about the truth of the ZANU-PF? Because all that is subjective, and it should not be the purpose of the law to come in and police people's expressions when it comes to resolving issues when they deliberate those with whatever entity they are in deliberation with, and to also see the cowardice or the intentions of the drafters in this bill. You see that having a meeting deemed to be probably peddling falsehoods and so forth, and also the crime of treason, they are put at the same level. That if you have a meeting and someone who commits treason, those are like deemed the same crimes, and they are punishable by death. So having a meeting under this bill, to consider whatever what is saying you're going to consider is punishable by death. No, who drafts a law like that? And when you're looking also at the issue of you being stripped of citizenship, that is clearly in contravention of the law of the Constitution, specifically Section 39 of the Constitution, which provides that citizenship by registration can be revoked only if it is obtained by fraud, or if a citizen communicated with an enemy during war in which Zimbabwe was engaged with. It does not say about meetings and so forth. So is this law coming to change the Constitution? What are we talking about here? And if I just go back again to probably cite what I was talking about the issue of treason and meeting under this act. Under Section 20 of the Code, the penalty for treason is death. And Section 48 of the Constitution states that death penalty can only be imposed if that person is convicted of murder under aggravating circumstances. So what are we saying about this bill? Is this bill coming to change what is in the Constitution? What are we saying? So it goes back to the issue of the intentions of these drafters. As I said, that this bill is a malicious bill that is coming in at a time when there are elections in order to thwart the freedom of expression of those who might speak of human rights violations that are happening in Zimbabwe. If we talk about Mo Blessing Ali right now to other colleagues at the United Nations, it can be a punishable offense under this bill. And is that a perpetuation of freedom of expression? No, it's not. So basically, when we're talking about, when Mr. MAVAZA is talking about the truths, what truths are we talking about? Truths in whose eyes? Is it truths in the eyes of the perpetrator? Is it truths in the eyes of the victim? And what is the purpose of the law when there's that debate? Should you come in and then police and say to the perpetrator or you say to the victim that if you say that you have been beaten, you've been abducted, you've had your parents murdered and killed, do not say that, otherwise I will penalize you under this law that I've put in. That is not democracy at all. That in itself is a rule by law. And as we know, I think Mr. MAVAZA will also attest to this. He knows that ZANU-PF and the government have been, since time immemorial, implementing what they call lawfare against those who criticize the government. The law has been weaponized to actually get people incarcerated, get people killed, get people abducted. It has been used since time immemorial. If you go back to the issues, to the inception of IPA, the access to information, act that was there before. That act was put in place under the camouflage that it was coming to promote access to information. But what did we see? We saw the newspapers like Daily News being closed up. We saw journalists being arrested. We saw many things happening. POSTA also came in, and it came in under the guise of Public Order and Security Act, that they wanted to protect the public. But what happened there? They started to persecute all opposition activists. They started to arrest all opposition activists who criticized the government. Right now, it's so difficult to have a meeting without the government's interference because of acts like MOPA, then POSA. And now comes this act, which now comes in not only to restrict freedoms of expression, but also to kill people who talk. Who does that as a country? Who does that? Why would you kill a citizen for talking? Why would you strip a citizen of their citizenship for criticizing the government? This is what we're saying is coming. This is what we're saying this act will come to do, to thwart, to increase, to reduce the spaces of criticism, which is or should be constructive to the government, especially when it comes to these times of elections, where citizens should feel free to talk about whatever they feel concerned, whatever they want the government to improve on the human rights track record of the government, that please improve on this. Then, why should you be killed for that? And to me, this act has no place in any country that calls itself a democracy. It has no place in a civilized society. It does not in any way inspire confidence or even inspire patriotism in anyone in Zimbabwe. And it just should go, and the president should not sign this law.
Well, these are quite very strong words here from Advocate Masia. Dr. Mavaza,
Yes.
where do you place? Here's the question here: where do you place lawfulness in this bill? I mean, before actually talking or debating around the area of what it is criminalizing, which is what is false, what is not, and what is talking to foreigners or foreign governments and what is not. Let's just talk about here the basics. And this is what I think, if I'm hearing Advocate Mathia right, his complaint is on the lawfulness. He's saying, look, there's nothing that you can say here is lawful in this bill. And I will quote his words, and I hadn't seen, I hadn't comprehended that statement before. But he says, look, the bill was done to kill people. And so when someone is killed, no one will be able to speak about it. It's like, for instance, on the 1st of August, Dr. Mavaza, between the 1st of August and the 19th, I had conversations with the Vice President, Constantino Chiwenga. And he said to me, the bullets came, bullets that shot people. Number one, he said they came from Nelson Chamisa's hooligans. That was number one. Number two, he said the bullets came out of tear gas canisters. I was supposed to suck that. I am supposed to say, yes, sir, I heard you, and this is it. So if I then report in my news, or I meet Lord Oates tomorrow, or I meet another senator in the States, and I say, look, Vice President Chiwenga lied to me, and the government of Zimbabwe lied to me. I am now guilty of, and yet what I was speaking is meant to protect people from death. So wasn't this done to kill people? Isn't this an unlawful, a barbaric, unlawful piece of legislation?
Simba, legally, lawful means legitimate or something permitted by law. Laws can be created by parliament or by the judges or by customs. So when this law is created by parliament, there is no unlawful law when it is created and voted for, when it has been created through the normal channels where laws are created. I'm sure you need to understand that. So that the act in itself cannot be unlawful. Maybe an act can be deemed unusable if it breaches the constitution, but this one doesn't. An act can be deemed difficult to keep if it is in such a way that it will be definitely difficult to respect it. But when you look at it, there is nothing unlawful in a law because it is the law. So it is within the law. It is within the foundations of the law, and that's what it is. And again, Simba, what you need to understand here, and you and Advocate Masie, which you need to understand is the Patriotic Act is not prohibiting people from criticizing the government. I can say this again. It allows you to criticize the government at any cost. You can criticize the party, ZANU-PF, or anybody, as long as your criticism is true and constructive. It prohibits you from lying. Now, you were told by the vice president, so what we have heard from you, that the bullets came from canisters. You need to understand what he meant by bullets. He's a soldier, you are not. So he understands better what he was referring to when he talked to you about the bullets. And when he talked about the bullets some of them coming from Chamisa's hooligans, we have to prove that that was not the issue. So if you are going to tell the world about Zimbabwe, if you say things which are different from what the vice president says, it does not mean that you are lying. It means that you have got your own truth and you have to prove that it's true. So the law does not simply arrest you for saying something. You will be given time to prove that what you said out there was the truth, because the truth is the defense in this act, and therefore the penalties of this act, it will be up to death penalty. It does not mean it's automatic death. The penalty is not automatic. It's up to the discretion of the judge, but the judge is given the bounds and the limitations on what he does in executing or sentencing after a conviction has been secured. But above all, I wonder why people are so much scared and afraid. I can assure you, Advocate Masie, if you talk about More Blessing Ali, it's not a lie that she died. It's not a lie that she was cut into pieces. And if you say that everywhere, nobody will charge you or arrest you because you are simply saying the facts. But if you continue in your truth and then cement it with lies, and then it all becomes fiction, that becomes questionable. You will have to prove what you have said. If the government believes that what you say is a lie, you can then have to say, no, it's not a lie, it's the truth. So the judge is needed. So the judge has to listen to all sides. And then at the end of a court, a thorough investigation into facts is done. And a thorough cross-examination of those facts is done. And then judgment is passed. So you cannot be afraid of this law because it's not automatic sentence. And therefore, those who are afraid, people are now scared of the Patriotic Bill or Act because of people who come up and lie and say this is a way of killing people and it's unlawful. It cannot be unlawful if it is the law passed by Parliament, because it is a legitimate institution which had actually come up with parts of its functions is to create laws, and it did that. And laws are meant to govern an ill or to remove an ill which has been prevalent in a society. Like if rape becomes prevalent, the laws can be extended, the sentences can be extended from 10 to 20 years. You remember in 1985, Advocate Masia, I'm sure by then you were still at school while we were about to practice. They changed the law to give anybody who is found with an ivory, with an elephant horn, up to 10 years in prison, from 5 years to 10 years, which was 6 months all along. It went up straight, shoot up to 5 years. Why? Because poaching became prevalent. The law has to be changed. So laws can be changed and the law of found in possession of ivory, the law had changed from killing an elephant to be found in possession of ivory, and even to be prospecting for the sale of ivory became punishable by law unless you have got authority to do so. So the law comes on when something becomes too much prevalent and very much affecting. You see, when you go and lie about your country, the consequences which the country faces do not only punish the government, it punishes a child who is in the womb, it punishes a baby born today, it punishes a sick man in hospital, it punishes everybody in the country, because we end up getting unnecessary sanctions, which are unlawful, by the way, which are caused by the lies which are peddled by our own people, our own Zimbabweans. So this law, look at it as a better law, which is going to make life easier for Zimbabweans. And therefore, there is no need to be afraid of this law. This law is clearly open for you, for me, and you can simply avoid being arrested by sticking to the truth and not lying. And again, the most problem we have is to believe that politics is lies. No, we do not manifest in lies in politics. Politics is the truth. Only bad politicians lie. But good politicians, as I have said, Advocate Masie, good politicians are found in ZANU-PF because they don't lie. Now, I'll come to the point, Advocate Masie. I know you have been fighting for justice in the case of ITAI DZAMARA. We're all fighting for justice. ZANU-PF is with you in that fight. We want to know where he is. We want to have him wherever he is. We want him out. We want him to be joined with his family. If he's dead, we want him to be buried accordingly in his family. So we are with you. We are behind you. We actually applaud you for such tireless fighting for the rights, for the peace of mind for the Zamara family. And we say these are the lawyers we want, who fight for the truth, who don't go out lying, but they sit down, fight for the truth, work with those investigating to have the truth come out. So in short, yes, we applaud you for that. This is good, and we pray and wish that one day, if God allows, we'll know what happened to Zamara, and we'll be thanking you ever so much for your tireless fight in justice and in finding out where Zamara is. And ZANU-PF wants to know where he is. He might have been kidnapped and captured by MDC, all we know, or by Triple C, all we know, or by Monzora, all we know, but we don't know. So we need the truth to come out. And we are very grateful that we have you, and we urge you to have more energy into that. And do not lie about your country. Tell the truth, and the truth will set you free.
Dr. Mavaza, we're going to quickly read people's comments here. And just as we also ask you, both of you, to prepare your closing remarks, I'm trying to be as time sensitive as I can.
Thank you.
Yes. And what we have here, Erisha says Grace Mugabe was illegally exporting ivory in containers. Why is she still loitering around? Professor Chulu says killers will remain killers in our beautiful motherland, which is ZANU-PF terrorist organization led by his mafia masters, Mnangagwa. And then Brixton says patriotism can exist alongside critical thinking and constructive engagement with the country's policies, institutions, and social issues. It's not to imply blind support for every aspect of government. And then someone is saying here, as a nation, we want justice for ITAI DZAMARA. Anzi Mavaza, bring back ITAI. And someone says, this Mavaza doesn't know what the truth looks or sounds like. Yes, Advocate Masie, let's have the truth about Gukrahundi Murambachina powerless. CCC councils, tell us the truth, Dr. Mavaza. That's Nicholas Munmutapa Mada. And then we have Isaac Piri, who says it was to say ZANU-PF members are violent. If I was to say ZANU-PF members are violent and killers, is that going to be classed as falsehood? I think that's a question to you. That should be the host. What a question for you, Dr. Mavaza. And I'm going to ask you to start rounding up. And I don't know how to start this. I'm thinking, Advocate Masie, would you like to give us your closing remarks for 1 minute? And then we have Dr. Mavaza answering, as he is giving us his closing remarks, also answering those questions. Thank you. Advocate Masia.
No. Thank you very much, Simba. Yes. So having this piece of legislation come in, under the guise of patriotic bill, whatever it's being called, it's pretty much something that is, throwing an egg in the face of citizens. Citizens are being, forced to not speak the truth about what's happening in their country. They are being forced to just swallow whatever victimizations that they suffer in Zimbabwe. And probably in rounding up, I would like to to draw Dr. Mavaza to one case that was litigated in 2015 involving freedom of expression. I'm not pretty sure whether Dr. Mavaza knows that criminal defamation was outlawed in Zimbabwe by the Constitutional Court, which was the case which was decided by the then Chief Justice Chijausiku. That law called criminal defamation is no longer part of our laws, and to have a law now being smuggled in through this patriotic bill, where talking can be criminal, somehow shows that probably the government is not sincere in trying to nurture the freedoms that are expressed in terms of our constitution. So to me, I would like to urge the president not to sign this law, as it will just dampen the spirits of Zimbabweans who would want to nurture the freedom of expression in order to shape the lives that they are living. Right now, we do have cases that are ongoing that have not been dealt with. I made reference to Gukra Wundi. There are some cases that happened in the 2000s, 2005, 2008, where people were murdered, were killed. Zimbabwe has not found peace. It has not found justice. It has not found, that there are no reparations that have been, taken into account because of those violations. And for us now to be held down by this piece of legislation, where if we were to talk about some of these violations that happened in the past, you would be criminalized. You would have your citizenship stripped out. Somehow dampens the spirit of citizenry, and also does not inform, patriotism, so to say. So I would like to, urge Mr. Mavaza to reconsider in his arguments, especially when it comes to this piece of legislation, and also when it comes to the penalties that are in that piece of legislation, which include long sentences in imprisonment, up to 20 years, and outrageous sentences such as murder, and inhuman sentences such as being stripped citizenship. No government should do that to its own people. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you very much.
Masia. Thank you, Simba.
Yes,
In
please, and
closing,
please remember to also answer 2 or 3 questions that have been asked of you here, sir.
let me start by answering the questions. The first question is, if you go out and say ZANU-PF attacks, they kill people, would you be arrested? To start with,
yes,
the law prohibits you from saying falsehoods against your country, not a political party. So if you have to look at the law again, it prohibits falsehoods against the country. So would you, if you go and lie that ZANU-PF kills people, we know that you will be a damn liar and you will be horrible, but still you won't be arrested for that, because you are talking about a party, not about the country. So you need to see the difference between lying against a party and lying against the country. The patriotic bill, your patriotism is not measured by how you love your party. It's measured by how you love your country. And therefore, that is answered. And furthermore, the second question, which was referring to the issues of Gukra Hundi, I really pity Advocate Masia, because he does not understand complexity of the issues of Gukrahundi. And again, the Gukrahundi issue, it was a matter of a civil war, which the government came up with a ministry dedicated to heal those wounds. Of course, the wounds of those who died, the families who lost those who died, is not healed by talking. But yes, people were asked to come together in a reconciliatory mood and discuss those issues. I want you to understand one thing, Advocate Masie, that during Gukrahundi, we lost people from different parties. We lost people from Mashonaland a lot. I lost relatives. I lost brothers and sisters who were in the police force, who were in the army, who were killed in Bulawayo by the dissidents. And we know people in Bulawayo who were killed not by the army, but by the dissidents. But these are bygones. And the president of Zimbabwe then, Comrade Robert Mugabe, said that was a moment of madness in his apology to the country. There is no tribe which could own the victimhood of Gukrahundi. Every nation, every national in Zimbabwe owns a loss. We had a great loss in this one, and it is an issue which we need to allow these wounds to heal. We need to allow these wounds to heal and move on as a united people. These are things we don't want to keep talking about. There are so many things. It's like Advocate Masie, we lost over 200,000 people in Mashonaland who were killed during the Mashonaland-Matabeleland War, where the people will come into Mashonaland, raid, kill, take women, rape them, and everything. But we made those as bygones. And Mianyanda, when she rose to fight the white, she united with people from the Matabeleland to fight the white settlers. It became the first Chimurenga. It included both sides, and therefore Zimbabwe is to come one. And when we fought the white men in the second Chimurenga, we had people from Matabeleland, from Mashonaland, Manikaland, everywhere in the country. We came together and fought in ZANU-PF and in Zanla and Zipra, and to get independence. And when we got that independence, we want to know that the freedom of Zimbabwe was watered by the blood of Zimbabwean children, not on tribal grounds, but on national, on patriotic ground. And after that, the unfortunate situation happened in 1982, where this war started, civil war started, and a rebellion was made. Talk about dissidents. It's a very sorrowful moment. It's a moment we are not proud of as a country. And it's a pity that somebody wants to use the Gukrahundi issue as a victim card in these issues. The issue is simply patriotic bill. If you go out and lie to another government about your country, that law should get you. If you go out of the country and say falsehoods, and you see the crime is not on talking, the crime is on talking falsehoods. Falsehoods is the crux of the crime here. So if you talk and there is no falsehood in what you've said, that is not prohibited. Nobody has been stopped from talking to foreign agents. You have been stopped from lying about your country to foreign agents. But now, in conclusion, I want to say the Patriotic Act, it's a blessing we've been waiting for. We urge the president to sign it as soon as yesterday, because it has to get into action. It has to be used as soon as now. And what we are saying is, if you do not intend to lie about Zimbabwe, if you are not going to say falsehoods, why would you be afraid? Because the guilty are afraid. Those who are afraid, those who are panicking, those who cannot sleep because of this bill are the guilty ones. And I would say to every Zimbabwean listening now, put your political thinking aside. Put on the jacket of patriotism. Be a Zimbabwean for once. Stop being CCC or ZANU-PF or anything. Be Zimbabwean. This law is not partisan. This law is not protecting a party or a government. This law protects Zimbabwe as a country, and it protects you because you are Zimbabwean. Do not forget one thing. Zimbabwe is the only country we can
I'm going to
call
ask you to
ours
start,
in
Lemmy.
the whole world. So in conclusion, in Zimbabwe, iwene nitine basa, nyika, inovakwa iyo vene vayo. Ngativake Zimbabwe together. Viva Patriotic Bill, and when you vote, vote ZANU-PF. Thank you so much. Happy
Well,
Sabbath,
thank you.
everybody.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mavaza. Here we are, viewers, witnesses. Here's the discussion tonight. We have here Dr. Masimba Mavaza. We also have Advocate Kedmasia, who concludes tonight by stating that there are inconsistencies here in his view. This bill is unlawful. And I quote particularly, he also mentioned that criminal defamation was outlawed. Quickly, our viewers, this is the end of our discussion tonight. Do press the share button and do give us feedback if you can. Advocate Masie, Dr. Mavaza, thank you very much.
Thank you, Simba. Thank you, Advocate.
Oh,
Thank you,
oh,
Zimbabwe.
oh, by the way, Hansi to the commission report iri commission, the
That,
Gukurahundi commission. As long as
that,
you hide it, as long as you hide the Gukurahundi commission report, yeah, we remain divided. This is Taura Ishitewe.
Simba, let's have a topic on Gukurahundi,
On
me,
it separately.
Advocate Masie,
Right.
and
Thank you
we'll
very
discuss
much.
about it later.
Right. Folks, we're done. Thank you very much. Good evening.